Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you're watching second part of What If Naruto Meets Minato after Chuunin exams. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
They conversed for a while, only breaking when Naruto's stomach began to growl. You. I'm hungry. When's Arrow? Sennin going to get here? Minato gave a shrug. I was only told to be here by 10. Jiraiya. Sensei is almost never late. Something important must have come up. While Naruto assumed a contemplative stance, Minato nodded and asked, Did Kakashi Sensei tell you to get here at 10 too? I know what happened. Kakashi Sensei is always a few hours late when he gives us Genin team meetings. He loves to make us wait. I bet he said for us to get here at 10 just to make us wait a few extra hours. That evil pedophile. After finishing his speech, Naruto crumpled to the ground while gripping his snarling stomach. The fourth tried not to pucker up his face. I think Kakashi just wanted to give us more time to spend together. That Kakashi. He just needed to tell us the truth. We had the option of going out to lunch. We're stuck here now, not even sure when Jiraiya Sensei will show up. With a smile, Minato took out 2 of the rice rolls he'd snapped together this morning, not voicing a single thought. He held one out to the boy who was moaning. Here. With excitement, Naruto grabbed it and started gobbling it down. Minato chewed the other one thoughtfully. I'll have to start over when it comes to teaching him manners. Naruto covered his face with his hands and smiled in a way that was unsettlingly similar to Kakashi. And then I heard, yo my cute student. Naruto shivered and I was like, what the hell? It's Kakashi sensei. What the heck was he doing here? And then when I asked him, he was like, do I need a reason to visit my cute little student? The boy once again took on the appearance of Chuunin. Sensei. Minato arched an eyebrow and said, he treated me exactly like that this morning. Really? We can't let him get away with this, Minato said, nodding. Obviously not. We plan to pull a practical joke on him at the academy. Naruto bellowed, you'll assist me, surely? Minato grinned and said, sure. Based on the route Jiraiya Sensei has planned for us, we should have a few weeks to organize our exact plan of attack on him. So what are you and Arrow Sennin going to teach me on this training trip? Beaming Naruto. The fourth tapped his chin thoughtfully, what are we going to teach you? I have something that you could work on, but I'm not sure if you're ready for it. Naruto grinned confidently and said, I'm ready for anything you can throw at me. We'll see. In any case, why did you assume that this was a training trip? Naruto's expression furrowed in perplexity. Huh? I was told by Kakashi sensei that I was going on a training trip with Arrow Sennin. What the hell is this trip for if it's not a training trip? To become Konoha's 5th Hokage, we're going to locate Jiraiya Sensei's teammate, the Sannin Tsunade. Or Jiraiya is, and we're accompanying her to help persuade her to do it, Minato grinned. Kakashi is definitely going to understand it. 12:30, about 30 minutes later, Minato started teaching his son the fundamentals of hand 2. Hand fighting after the 2 blonde shinobi finished their simple lunch of onigiri and eggs that Minato had brought with him. Jiraiya arrived at 1 in the afternoon to find the 2 engaged in a light sparring match. Naruto was complaining loudly, asking, Dad, how do you even move so fast? Minato's response rang back loud and clear, a little chakra and a lot of practice. Keep trying. Jiraiya Sensei. The fourth turned to face his mentor, his voice and eyes much brighter than they'd been the previous evening. It's you again. Naruto seized the opportunity to charge his father without hesitation, thinking, this time, I've got him. With an unfazed smile, Minato said, I take it you managed to convince them to take her? Only to be sent flying by a well timed sidestep and a heavy forearm to the upper back and shoulder? The Toad Sage nodded and said, yup. He appears much better. Arrow Sennin. You're late. Naruto sprang up unharmed and jabbed an accusing finger skyward. No I'm not. Naruto scowled and said, yes you are. We've been here since 10. I never told you to be here at 10. I specifically told Kakashi that I'd be out around noon. If anything, you should have been here at noon the earliest. What? He told you to come at 10? Yeah. He did. Naruto exclaimed. A soothing hand rested on his son's shoulder from Minato. Naruto nodded and said, "We've got 2 weeks." And the fourth turned back to his teacher. "Shall we head off then, Jiraiya?" "Sensei?" The Sage of Toads smiled. "It looks like those two are getting along great. I wonder what their plans are." "Yeah, let's go." A crow perched on the steel roof of an apartment building 200 feet from Konoha's main entrance. It had been there since the break of dawn, pecking at shiny objects and trash. Its beady eyes watched as the fourth Hokage, Namikaze Minato, who had just returned, strolled out of Konoha with the distant image of the Sannin Jiraiya and the Jinchuriki, Uzumaki Naruto. The crow cawed loudly and vanished in a puff of feathers as it flew into a hidden alleyway. The crow reappeared a mile from the village and landed softly on Uchiha Itachi's hand. The crow told the Sharingan user what it had seen and then vanished back to its summoned location as the Sharingan user closed his eyes. Kisame gave his ears a pick. "So can we go yet?" Itachi answered, "Not yet. He's left the village, but we should give him a few days to get further from the village before we go in." The mist. Swordsman moaned, "Fuck, I'm bored." In hindsight, he added, "And Samahada's hungry." Itachi said nothing, urging his partner with the blue skin to continue. Kisame turned to his partner and waited for a response. "I don't see why we have to avoid him like this. I bet we could fight him. We're both S. rank nin for crying out loud." Kisame said. Itachi chose to give in to him. That man is 50 years old. No ninja fights through and survives 2 wars and lives to that age without having been incredibly powerful. You seem to forget that he's also one of the Sannin. You've seen Orochimaru. Even I couldn't subdue him after his attempt to capture me. Our objective is to capture the 9 tails, not fight Konoha's strongest shinobi. Exasperated, Kisame raised his head toward the sky. "I know, but... fuck. A few days? Really? How about we compromise? 1 day at most. 2. No." Itachi looked into his partner's black eyes with his Sharingan eyes. Kisami's eyes widened as she said, "The fourth Hokage has recently returned to Konoha and is leaving with him." Itachi went on without stopping. "If both the legendary Sannin and the Yellow Flash were to arrive, we'd be severely outmatched. 2 days is already pushing our luck. Even with your overpowered Sharingan?" Itachi remained quiet as a stone. The two were silent for a few minutes after Kisame grudgingly said, "TCH. Fine." While his partner paced the forest floor, occasionally practicing swinging his massive sword, Itachi was meditating. The mist. Nin suddenly realized something. "You better not have been using those Sharingan of yours for that argument. That's just cheating." The Uchiha gave a sly smile. "You're the one who met my eyes." Kisame jerked. "You petty bastard." Yuhi Kurenai steadied herself on the edge of a bridge that spanned a creek that bordered the more isolated parts of Konoha. The tall, black-haired son of the third Hokage was walking on the bridge's mainframe to her side. "We should get married." Leaping off the ledge, Kurenai landed softly on her feet. "What brought this on?" Asuma considered his answer carefully, chewing on his unlit cigarette. "One of these days you're going to get pregnant." The mistress of Genjutsu scoffed. "We haven't been that careless." Asuma shrugged and said, "It could happen. Regardless, wouldn't it be nice if we could settle down? Start a family together?" They strolled in silence for a short while. Kurenai scowled. "I don't know. What are you worried about? Let's say we do settle down and start a family. It's goodbye to my shinobi career until all our kids are old enough to take care of themselves. Then I might be too old or inexperienced to get back into the loop." The woman sighed. "I'm just not sure I'm ready to commit to such a sacrifice." Asuma let out a sigh. "That's such an old-fashioned law. I don't see why we can't have other people watch our kids while we're out in the field doing work." "What, and have a bunch of kids just to have someone else raise them?" "Asuma, what kind of family would that be? Shinobi work is dangerous. What if we died? Our children would be orphans." Asuma growled as he chewed his cigarette. The fourth did it. God, he really wanted to smoke it right then. He hadn't brought along his lighter, and neither of them possessed the necessary elemental control to simply light the object using fire jutsu without doing too much harm to their surroundings. Kurenai kicked a pebble into the water and said, he was Hokage. You're not. Together, they strolled in pleasant silence. They had brought up the topic numerous times previously, but they were unable to find a workable answer. Though neither was prepared to give up their shinobi careers, they both desired to settle down. While strolling, the two noticed a different pair of individuals casually approaching them. They both wore identical straw hats, dark cloths covering their faces, and matching cloaks speckled with red clouds. The shorter of the two gave a friendly tip of the hat. Excuse me. You wouldn't happen to know where we can find a Uzumaki Naruto, would you? Uzumaki Naruto, Jinchuriki of the Nine. Tails and pupil of Kakashi? Asuma grinned. Things were beginning to take on an intriguing quality. We might. Who are you and what business do you have with Uzumaki Naruto? The masked figure winked and said, we're friends of his. If you could just kindly give us his whereabouts, we'd be on our way. We don't want any trouble. Kurenai shrugged as Asuma turned to face her. She smiled at the man in the mask. We wish we could help you, but we really don't give away the location of our village's shinobi to just any random stranger who asks for it. Especially strangers who try to mask their identities. Seems like something only missing. Nin would do, you know what I mean? As Kisame removed the bandaged Samahata from Itachi's back, the man nodded. I see. Asuma had already given the all-clear to call for help. The two rode. Nin nodded and tossed off the heavy scarves and hats they had been wearing. Whoa! Kisame, his sword bearing down on the bearded Chuunin, cried out in relief, I thought we'd never take those damn things off. Asuma blocked the blow with his trench knives, grunting under the force of it, Hoshigaki Kisame. It's me, smiled Kisame. I seem to be well known even here. As Itachi remained motionless, assessing the prowess of the two Chuunin in front of him, his gaze steadily settled on the woman, who was speedily scurrying through the seals in search of a genjutsu. He countered it with his Sharingan, letting the woman think that her illusion had succeeded while she stood imprisoned in his, and the instant Kurenai realized she'd been placed in a counter. Illusion. She bit her lip to dispel the illusory tree that was holding her bound, only to find herself staring directly into Uchiha Itachi's three Tomo eyes. Before Kurenai could fully recover, Itachi aimed a slow kick at her face, and though she managed to raise her forearms in time to block it, Kurenai was still launched into the water. That's when Kakashi happened upon the scene, realized what was happening, made a shadow clone of himself, and hurried to help his fellow Chuunin mentors. Hitaki Kakashi, Itachi said, turning to face the man wearing a mask. User of 1,000 jutsus and copy. Nin. With his Sharingan eye already visible, Kakashi declined to reply, saying, Asuma, Kurenai. Avoid meeting the Uchiha's eyes directly. Proceed to seek assistance. I'll keep them waiting. Oh my goodness? As Asuma and Kurenai dashed off to signal for reinforcements, Kisame chuckled slightly. He broke through multiple hand seals and called forth a massive water dragon from the river, saying, Sweden. Suiryuden no Jutsu, only to have it neutralized by an identical copy of it. Kisame turned to face the copy. Nin and said, you fucking jutsu thief. Looks like I'll have to deal with you first. However, his partner stopped him. Itachi leapt into the water, assessing his masked opponent, saying, Kisame. He's mine. Just watch. Kakashi spread his clone of shadows. An individual match? How conceited. The Chuunin grinned. Your Sharingan is powerful, but you forget, I have one too. Your tricks won't work against me. Kakashi shot a fireball in the direction of the Uchiha and said, we'll see. Tell us where we can find Uzumaki Naruto and you will be spared. Kaden. Gukakyu no Jutsu. The most fundamental Uchiha method. As he released his own fireball to counter it, the missing Nin thought. Kakashi dove under the fireball's cover to emerge underwater. He saw several enormous water sharks swimming toward him as he was getting ready to create a water dragon. Itachi was still standing above the water, his hand on the surface of the river. Sweden. Go show Kuzame. Kisame scowled. That is my method. 3 kunai were launched toward the Uchiha by Kakashi as he leapt out of the water. With frightening accuracy, Itachi deflected Kakashi's projectiles with twice as many kunai. The others flew in the direction of the copy. Nin, who, seeing with his Sharingan eye, wheeled through the air, avoiding the kunai that were aimed at his chest and belly. With lightning fast reflexes, he caught the third one mid-air and brought it down gently on the water's surface. Kakashi didn't hesitate for a second before raising the kunai to block a blow. Itachi had gotten closer to them in an astonishingly short amount of time. Itachi instantly sent his other hand hurtling into Kakashi's kunai arm using a variety of chakra induced propulsions. Undaunted by the loss of his weapon, Kakashi spun around and kicked Itachi twice in quick succession. Just as Kakashi was straightening from his previous move, Itachi leapt up, dodging the kicks and sending identical kicks toward Kakashi's face. Kakashi crept up on him. Just as expected. Right leg Itachi swung over Kakashi's head, but left leg Itachi angled downward, landing cleanly on the back corner of Kakashi's head with his second kick. The copy. Nin tumbled through the water after being struck. His head trauma symptoms were creeping in, and though his Sharingan had given him the foresight to deflect the otherwise fatal blow with a thin layer of chakra, he still felt a dizzying pain. Behind his mask, Kakashi gritted his teeth. Oh no. He broke my cranium. He looked up into Uchiha Itachi's annoyingly expressionless face. Itachi looked directly into his. Only an amateur. Your Sharingan will always be just a mere imitation of the real thing. Unable to take his eyes off the captivating Uchiha's gaze, Kakashi scowled. What subject is he discussing? Itachi's gaze flickered. Tsukuyomi, Konoha began to take on dark, inverted hues, and Kakashi's world crumbled. His voice carried throughout him, Itachi's. Permit me to demonstrate the Sharingan's true power to you. He felt something jagged stab him in the flesh. He gave a painful wince. This is merely a delusion. Kakashi's chakra flared. Nothing took place. A second kunai lodged in his left leg. Kakashi collapsed to the ground in pain. A barrage of more kunai pierced his body, sharpening his senses in an unnatural way. The kunai vanished and the pain subsided at the height of his suffering. His voice carried throughout him, Itachi's. A kunai sank into his body, saying, "Allow me to show you the true power of the Sharingan." Kakashi took off running at full speed. More kunai plunged into his hands, pinning him to the ground before vanishing into the air, stabbing into his lungs, stomach, back, arms, legs, and feet. Permit me to demonstrate the Sharingan's true power to you. The horrific scene replayed itself, and a creeping panic crept over him. Hateful, hateful, have to get out of here, hateful, 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 hate. The kunai pounded on his body and hammered him into the ground as he fell, screaming in pain. It took just a few seconds for Kakashi to be defeated. Although applying the Tsukuyomi only took a few seconds, Kakashi was subjected to 70 hours of torture in a different reality. The Chuunin lost consciousness due to severe mental trauma and collapsed. Just as Kakashi was about to fall face first into the water, Asuma and Kurenai arrived, Maida Guy in tow. Finding the spotless Uchiha standing over Konoha's renowned copy, Nin, Kurenai's eyes widened in shock. They left Hoshigaki Kisame standing in that spot. That Itachi defeated Kakashi without getting any scratches at all? That is completely crazy. They had only been gone for a few minutes at most, and when they had returned, they had anticipated finding the masked Chuunin bruised but upright. It was quite possible they would lose even with Guy here to join the battle. A debilitating fear started to consume her. She had never felt so completely outmatched in her life. How are they so powerful? Supplements, Itachi said, glancing at them coldly. And likely more to come. We're not here to fight a two-man war against Konoha. Let's retreat. With a sigh, Kisame and the other person leapt backward, returning swiftly to their original path. The two Akatsuki members eventually stopped running after an hour, with a somewhat secure position. A crow materialized, landed on Itachi's hand, and vanished in a plume of black feathers. My crow that had been following the Sannin tells me that Uzumaki Naruto apparently left with him on the trip. Kisame cursed. Why the hell didn't it come back sooner? Its orders were to tail the sage, not to look for the Jinchuriki, Uzumaki Naruto. It only came back because it was nearly killed after the yellow flash caught it spying on them in the town of Anazaku. Itachi replied in a monotone voice. So we're heading to Anazaku next? Yes. Damn, we shouldn't have asked them for their Jinchuriki like that. Now they know what we're after. The leader's not going to be pleased if he hears about this. The mist. Nin grumbled. If we fail to take the boy from both Jiraiya and the Yellow Flash, next time's going to be a huge pain in the ass. Itachi did not smile. I know. The three intrepid travelers set out on their first day of travel with renewed vigor, strolling through the trees at a steady pace. Since Jiraiya was the one who knew exactly where they were going, he took the lead. At this rate of travel, we should arrive at the next town in roughly 6 hours. When we get there, we'll spend the night. His pupils gave him a nod. Naruto grinned. It's only 6 hours. Naruto began to get tired by the end of the hour. They had traversed more than 20 miles at a brusque, ninja-like pace while leaping through the trees. A stony determination took hold of Naruto's face. Usually, he would have asked for a break, but he didn't want Jiraiya or his father to perceive him as weak. I can accomplish it too, if that old pervert can. After traveling for 4 hours, Minato, who trailed behind, saw his son start to become unsteady. They had traveled almost 80 miles. He leapt to his side, following the boy's path. Naruto, do you need some rest? No, I'm okay. Though clearly tired, Naruto shook his head. Before you jump, try focusing chakra over your leg and thigh muscles. It will be beneficial. Okay. Naruto gave a nod and accelerated his speed. Minato grinned. He puts forth a lot of effort in his work. Forward, Jiraiya gave a laconical call. Keep up. They entered a village and Jiraiya turned to his blonde minions. About 30 minutes had passed since the sun had set. This village is called Karakiro. Here, we'll spend the night. Tomorrow, we should arrive in Inazaku. We're not going to see that town again for 2 or 3 days. Beyond that lies the nation of Konoha surrounded by a vast forest of trees. From here, we'll be traveling slightly northwest and quickly approaching Showa town, which is well known for its casinos, boxing arenas, saunas, and... The Toad Sage smiled foolishly. Various other places. Too exhausted to even confront the sage about his perverse thoughts, Naruto stumbled along behind. When he's not busy getting perverted, Arrow Sennin could be one hell of a tour guide. So the old lady you're looking for is in Showa town? Yup. Jiraiya gave a nod. Just don't go calling her old in her face, unless you want to be sent flying. With a yawn, Minato raised his arms in the air. Let's just find a place to get some sleep before we head out tomorrow. He was functioning on the 3 hours of sleep from the previous night in the old apartment, as was Jiraiya. The fourth wasn't quite to the point where a few hours of sleep was enough, even though the sage's experience made him more tolerant of less sleep. Jiraiya did not say anything more before guiding his students to a little inn and showing them into a small, empty room. Then, while Minato spread out a futon on the empty floor, he went to relieve himself. Naruto followed suit, tumbling onto the thin cushion with gracelessness. Good night, Dad. He stammered. He had been exhausted all day, mentally and physically. Even though Naruto hated for the day to end, he could not deny that it was the best day of his life. Before he knew it, he was fast asleep, hearing his father's answering call. Good night, Naruto. When Jiraiya returned, the two were lying next to each other. He smiled. How cute. He neglected to apply his security seals as well. He riffled through his scroll of storage. I've figured out who has the brush and ink now. He put down the inkpot, unscrewed the cap, and dipped his brush into its infinite depths. He heard a soft voice drift into his consciousness as he began to seal off a corner of the room. Jiraiya. Sensei. Yeah? The crow. As sharp as ever. In the dark, Jiraiya shook his head. I'll take care of it. After completing the seal, the sage turned to face another corner. Jiraiya. Sensei. Thank God he didn't hear that. Is it truly true that 12 years have passed? What's up? He turned to face his long, absent pupil. The fourth had not budged. I want to talk to you about Naruto. The speaker faltered. Tomorrow. All right. Jiraiya kept drawing his seal of barrier. What about? He waited, but got no answer. His two students had fallen asleep. The elderly sage smiled softly and shook his head. Sweet dreams. When Jiraiya woke up at 4 in the morning, a crow was staring through the window across the street at him. Its beady eyes gave off an odd glow in the darkness. He almost gave a start. Gosh! Is there a less ominous way for him to indicate to me? The two apprentices' corpses were scared by the sage with a light hop. He opened the window and deactivated the barrier seal with a small flare of chakra and a fast hand seal. He glanced over his shoulder one last time at the two shinobi yup who were sleeping. While still asleep, he silently launched himself off the window ledge and landed soundlessly next to the crow. He pulled out some of the nuts he'd scavenged from the forest and scattered them for the big black bird on the wooden tiles of the roof. Morning, Kusa-kun. The crow nibbled on a few of the nuts and nodded. You were following us in the sky, as my student observed. Tomorrow, you ought to fly lower. We're going to Tanzaku, so you shouldn't worry about keeping an eye out for us. The crow gave a nod, indicating that it had listened to what the sage had said. After nibbling on one more nut, it leapt onto the hand of the toad sage. As it sent him the message, Jiraiya closed his eyes, memories of the crow filling his mind. Having completed its task, the bird jumped from the sage's hand onto the rooftop to consume a few more nuts, only to avert its eyes slightly in the direction of the spiky haired person. Jiraiya gave a confirming nod. Good work. After pecking at a few more nuts, the crow took off. Before dawn, Jiraiya woke them. His booming voice filled the space. Rise and shine, kids. Minato took a seat. With a moan, Naruto covered his ears. Jiraiya smiled. Don't want to miss out on the morning training session, do we? Instruction? Learning from the Jiraiya of the Sannin typically meant mastering brand new, amazing skills. Strengthening meant learning new and amazing techniques. Gaining strength equated to becoming more respected and badass. Naruto instantly sat up. Yes. Training. Rubbing sleep from his eyes, Minato smiled down at him. Morning, Naruto. Naruto looked up at his dad. He was still in disbelief that the Fourth Hokage was his father and that he had a father at all. It felt like his dad had been with him all along, even though it had all happened so quickly. Morning. Dad. The toad sage's heart warmed at the sight. Okay, you drowsy heads. Pay attention. After eating breakfast and working out in the morning, we're going to leave. But what about training? Exercise is part of training. With a pout, Naruto muttered something to himself. You big, perverted liar. Jiraiya's smile got bigger. We'll begin our journey close to the nearby hot spring. I've heard that women like fit guys. Naruto's voice grew harsh and demanding. You big, nasty, disgusting pervert. The fourth held his face palm up. Don't encourage him. As it happened, the only people in this village who visited the hot springs at 5 in the morning were extremely elderly people. Hide behind a rock, Jiraiya looked down into the spring to see if there were any signs of silky, smooth skin. He scowled. My bad luck. His students were doing some stretching exercises behind him. Despite his father's advice to support the man, Naruto was about to blow up. This was incorrect. Arrow. Sennin. Jiraiya pivoted and attempted to gesture for the blonde to cease talking. You shouldn't be peeping in people's privacy like that. You are repulsive and obscene. It's incorrect as well. Another voice cut short the boy's tirade. Jiraiya the Sannin, oh my. How delightful. Ladies, we wouldn't mind if you came along. As the women emerged from the water, a lot of negative voices could be heard, along with the loud sound of rippling water. They were getting closer to the rock that concealed the sage, and some of Tama likely X. Shinobiya had already reached the outcrop. After glancing once, Naruto choked. Minato suppressed a chuckle. The women persisted. You used to be really adorable. I recall that you had attractive hair and a pleasingly angular face. You wouldn't think that wart on your nose was still there, would you? The sage began to panic and laughed nervously. Well, that's all right. I have some errands to run, you know. Perhaps later. He's so shy. Adorable. Come on over here. The first woman rounded the rock and smiled lustfully at the sage. Oh my, you're still kind of cute. The toad sage leapt like his life depended on it and let out a yelp. With a flurry of words trailing behind him, he zipped past his students. I'll meet up with you guys across the village later. Please don't arrive late. Most of the women had made it up the rocky outcrop by now. That ought to teach him a lesson. With a sly smile, the lead woman turned to face a stunned Minato. "Oh hey, you're really cute." People started speaking up. "He looks just like the Fourth Hokage." "Oh my. He does. He even has the haircut." Well, the Fourth was quite a fashion icon back in the day. Many heads nodded concurrently. Minato apologized and withdrew. "I apologize for upsetting you. It's probably time for us to leave. We will meet Jiraiya Sensei at the west entrance to the village. I'm sorry about his actions." He turned to Naruto, who was writhing on the ground and clutching his stomach, and bowed. He was trembling uncontrollably, tears streaming from his eyes. "Naruto. Come on, let's go." "Okay, hold on." Naruto became choking. As his son spit out, Minato watched with patience. His mouth twitched a little. It was highly infectious, whatever it was that was going on with his son. On the second day of their journey, they made good progress and arrived in Tanzaku early in the afternoon, stopping only briefly for lunch en route. Naruto was able to significantly boost his speed and endurance thanks to the advice he received the day before regarding chakra concentration. Who knew that a small amount of chakra applied to the limbs could have such a profound effect? Naruto was confused as he thought. Why was this not disclosed to us by Kakashi Sensei? In fact, he was certain that the masked Cyclops had told them about Ida, or at least Sasuke Hata, during their Chuunin exam matchup with Gaara. After a month of training, Sasuke could never move as quickly as Rock Lee. His father was thinking the same thing 10 meters behind him. "Kakashi, what the hell? Couldn't you instruct my son in something as basic as chakra running?" Yes, his son was an Uzumaki, but it was also a waste of chakra in the absence of perfect or nearly perfect control. Not to mention the 9 tails that lived inside of him. Naruto was essentially composed of chakra. One of the most observant people on the planet was Kakashi. He could not have possibly failed to notice that Naruto possessed more chakra than almost all of Konoha's genin combined. What if his failure to execute the chakra sprint had resulted in his death? Minato scowled and noted this in her mind's list of things Kakashi would probably hear about later. The trees sped by them without any warning. Jiraiya smiled. "It appears that I can quicken the pace." "Yo." He kept calling back. "We could arrive in Tanzaku by mid-afternoon if we quicken our pace. After that, we'll have time to unwind and explore. I also get more time to observe the women." With a sudden burst of speed, the 3 Konoha nin doubled their efforts without saying anything. The sage laughed. "Yes, exactly. There'll be lots of time for us." It was 4 in the afternoon when they reached Tanzaku. With anticipation, Jiraiya rubbed his palms together. Those large blue tiles are visible up ahead. The Tanzaku Town Hotel is that. He took something out of his pockets. "This cash is for you. Request the viewing room from them. They will be familiar with your topic." As his father took the coins, Naruto scratched his head. "However, Ero Sennin, how about you? Don't you plan to accompany us?" "I've got research to do." Jiraiya scowled. "Don't call me that, please. I still hold you responsible for the abuse you inflicted upon me in Karakiro. I'll return in time to have dinner." The sage shunshin and vanished without more ado. Had he lingered any longer, he would have heard the furious response from Naruto. "What? Please pardon me. I'm still not over you leaving us there. It was you who was peeping. Sennin Ero. Ero GG." With a stamp of his feet, Naruto glared at the location where the Toad Sage had been standing moments before. Many onlookers paused to take in the spectacle, and a few whispered when they noticed the 4th. "It appears to be the 4th Hokage," he said. "Hey, it does." Minato looked up in frustration, his face palmed. His gaze widened over the clouds and he saw a black dot soaring high in the sky. The 4th scowled. "I am aware that the crow does not belong to us because the Toad contract prohibits any further summonses. It's either an ally or Jiraiya Sensei neglected to take care of it. I will ascertain which." Minato took his hand from his pouch. "Naruto." Naruto's rage subsided as he turned to face his father. "Huh? Take these." Into his son's hands, Mito pressed a 3 pronged Kurenai and the money he had received from Jiraiya. For us, you must register at the hotel. I'll return immediately. I have an urgent matter to attend to. Why? The cash and the Kurenai were taken by Naruto. Where are you going? The fourth hesitated for a moment, then decided it served no purpose to keep his son in the dark. We are being spied on by someone. I will endeavor to ascertain who and why. Naruto gave a solemn nod. Okay. He took the money and looked at the Kurenai questioningly. How does this thing work? Minato pulled out a corresponding duplicate of the weapon Naruto was grasping and gestured to the handle's tag. See this tag? Naruto gave a nod. It's a 3-meter radius sensor seal. I have the ability to sense everything inside the seal's spatial boundaries and move about in that space as I please. Naruto gave his head a scratch. I don't get it. Basically, I can teleport to that Kurenai from anywhere at any time. Minato gave an explanation. Naruto's gaze brightened. Hey. Alright. You got it. Why is it shaped this way? So that other people can tell it apart from normal Kurenai. Minato answered. Naruto studied the tips. Why? The fourth wet his mouth. The tail is lengthy. Okay, I'll let you know when I return. Okay. Naruto gave a nod. The former Kage shot his Kurenai skyward without saying anything more. He vanished in an instant, leaving Naruto by himself at the door of the busy main street in Tanzaku. A few approached him at this particular moment. Hey, young man. Was the man with whom you were just conversing the Fourth Hokage? Well. I have an assignment to complete. I apologize. With an apologetic retreat, Naruto vanished into the throng. Hi. Wait. Chihiro Ajino yawned. She had been employed by her family's business since she was a young child. The location was once a bathhouse, but about a year ago, patrons began to complain about seeing a big, white-haired monster prowling the walls and ceilings of the establishment. The area where people bathed at the bathhouse springs was where the monster was most frequently spotted. Despite the management's best efforts, the staff was never able to capture this monster, and it had never been brought down. Not even Chihiro's trap, which included a few trigger nets and one of the magazines she had discovered in her father's desk, had worked. The magazine had been taken and the ropes had been set off, but no monster had emerged from the nets. This was when Chihiro's mother made the decision that enough was enough. There was no way that the Ajino family business would be home to some creepy bathhouse monster. Not in a way. No way. Chihiro worked as the hotel's accountant, inventory manager, and afternoon front desk clerk when Ajino bathhouse converted to a hotel shortly after. Numerous changes resulted from the renovation. The once booming bathhouse had to operate at a loss for a while after losing a lot of its previous patrons. The complex's interior layout had to be altered, with new roofs and walls added, old bathhouse structures demolished to make room for apartments, etc. They had finally improved the place after weeks of construction. The Ajino establishment reopened as the official town hotel of Anazaku. Ironically, it was precisely because of the shift in business strategies that the bathhouse monster was eventually apprehended. A tall, white-haired man entered the hotel through the front door on the second day of its official opening, a horrified expression on his face. He had received the customary greeting from Chihiro, who had been working the desk at the time. With as much cheer as she could, she said, "Hello. Welcome to the Anazaku Hotel. Can I help you check out a room?" The man was dumbfounded and just stared. The man collapsed to his knees and began muttering incoherently, How could you do this? This place. This used to be such a wonderful place. My research. How could you?" A number of individuals skirted him, and Chihiro averted her gaze to assist in preparing a few clients' rooms. When the customers in line had been attended to, she turned to face the man who had been kneeling when she had last seen him. "Sir?" Not a reply. "Are you okay? Can I help you with something?" The man straightened and got to his feet. "Actually. Yes. I'd like to talk to the manager of the hotel. I can't disappear from this desk." With a persistent smile, Chihiro inclined her head. "Is there a problem, sir?" With seriousness, the man nodded. "Yes. There is a very big problem." Chihiro let out a sigh. She scanned the area for a short while before spotting an employee coming down the stairs with a mop and bucket slung over his shoulder. Okay, hold on. Haku. Could you get Mother? We have a guest who has something really important to tell her. The man's long, spiky white hair was tousled as he raised a hand to the back of his head. Well, it's not really that important. Haku gave the guest a deadpan look and then gave an enthusiastic yes. Right away, Agino-san. Let me just return these to the storage room. Chihiro said, okay, and Haku turned to leave. She started to look the man over. Long, white, and spiky hair. The green arms protruding from the red vest. It's not possible. Sir? You wouldn't happen to know how to stick to walls and ceilings, would you? The man smiled widely. The man squatted low, his palms pressed together over his head, of course. I'm a top-rate shinobi. The Sage of Toads, wooer of women, author of the Icha series, the great Sannin Jiraiya. Chihiro gave a nod. Can I ask you for a favor? Jiraiya's eyes narrowed. She reacted surprisingly well to my introduction. With a quick reach under the desk, the girl produced a mask. Jiraiya's lips were pursed. Why does it appear to be familiar? Chihiro grinned. Could you put this on for me? The wooer of women gave the request a scratch and concluded there was nothing wrong with it. He nodded and took the mask, pulling it tight against his face. Sure. I was aware of it. Chihiro's smile got bigger when her mother entered through a side door. Chihiro. Who's the guest that's having issues with our services? Her mother stopped after glancing at the masked Sannin who was standing in the center of the lobby. That's him. That's the white-headed monster. That's why, this mask looked familiar. With a blanch, Jiraiya removed the mask. The woman had a determined expression on her face as she strode toward him. She grabbed his arm firmly and pulled him toward the back, making the Toad Sage stand dumbfounded. Come with me. He turned to face the desk clerk and begged for assistance with his eyes. Chihiro grinned. I hope what you have to say is really important. In shock, Jiraiya's mouth moved open and closed. You set me up. Chihiro gave a wave and nodded. Have a good day, sir. The hotel manager dragged Jiraiya into an office and shut the door firmly. Jiraiya scowled. You've got a whole lot of explaining to do. With a sigh, Jiraiya resigned himself to accept whatever punishment the hotel matron felt like inflicting on him. The woman started rambling on about how he had harassed the customers, how inappropriate his actions had been, how much trouble he had caused, how much money he had spent, and how she didn't care if he was some big shot ninja as long as he paid up. Jiraiya caught only half of it. His thoughts remained jumbled. She introduced me. Abruptly, the woman's speech stopped. He gave an inward nod to indicate that he was listening. The woman went on and on about the conditions of payment. She was cute, at least. For the next few months of his life, the Sage of Toads would be employed by the Agino family. Returning to the present. Chihiro gazed drowsily at the time display behind her. It was nearly 4 o'clock. Her shift concluded at 6 o'clock. Another 2 hours. She was startled out of her reverie by the sound of bells ringing. She stifled another yawn and grinned upbeat. Hi. Welcome to the Tanzaku Hotel. I can get you a room when you're ready. The group that entered the room approached the desk with the greeting, Hey Chihiro. San. Long time no see. Chihiro handed them their keys and instructions before turning to face the clock, exhausted. It had only been a few minutes. She let out a sigh. She usually had a lot more energy, but today she didn't feel like it for whatever reason. Her head landed on the desk. I'm so tired. She was about to drift off to sleep when she heard bells ringing. She grinned. Hello. Welk. And came to a halt. Whoa. A small group of people followed the short blonde child who rushed through the doorway. The hotel lobby was filled with a cacophony of words. You little piece of shit, come back. This is the fourth Hokage that we are discussing. We are entitled to know. It won't take too long. Why are we pursuing him once more? I just want an interview, kid. We've managed to corner him. The child ran all the way to the desk and jumped behind the counter, cowering behind it and looking up at her pleadingly. With a nod, Chihiro faced the gathering. Hey. If you don't leave right now, I'm going to have you all written up for trespass. What about the child, though? Yes. Would you not also have to eject him? Words of agreement filtered through the crowd in murmurs. Chihiro turned back to the crowd after glancing down at the child. That's up to the hotel's jurisdiction. Now if any of you are still in here by the count of 3, I'll be adding a charge of child abuse to that report. 1. Some shrugged and walked away, while others followed with unhappy mutterings. 2. The remaining individuals dispersed, leaving behind a disheveled, middle-aged outcast, who sighed in relief as he leaned back and closed the door. Chihiro's eyes narrowed. Sir. You must be really stupid if you thought I was joking about those charges. The man waved his hands in the air and said, Not at all. I'm actually a customer. His features changed shape and literally melted after that. His skin smoothed, his hair grew longer, and his brown eyes turned blue. The man smiled. Chihiro took a big swallow. He should be dead, right? The man bowed slightly and said, Thank you so much for your assistance earlier. I hope you'll forgive us for bringing the crowd in. The boy yelled, Dad. As soon as he realized it was his father. Why didn't you just teleport to the kunai? You took forever. The man said, moving toward the desk, in the middle of that crowd. The boy hesitated. Oh. Right. The dad gave a headshake. We'd like to take the viewing room if that is available. Chihiro checked the register, Of course, sir. She glanced up at the man, ignoring the slight flutter in her heart as she did so. It is available. That'll be 800 ryo if you're only staying for the night. The man gave a nod. Naruto. Naruto, the boy, took out some coins, calculated how much was right, and set it down on the counter. Chihiro grinned. And your names, please? The man pointed first at himself and then at his son, saying, Namikaze Minato. He's Uzumaki Naruto, shouted the young boy. Chihiro brushed the names onto the roster and said, Right. One other person will also be joining us later tonight. His name is Jiraiya. Chihiro's eyes expanded and he said, G. Rai. Ya. Got it. Wait. That Jiraiya? It depends on your definition of that, Naruto added. Do you mean it as in that pervert Jiraiya or do you mean that, as in that Sanin Jiraiya? Chihiro's forehead furrowed as he focused. Both? Naruto smiled. Then yes. He's that Jiraiya. Chihiro forced herself not to roll her eyes and grinned broadly. Well, here are your keys. I hope you enjoy your stay. Naruto grabbed the keys and took off, saying, Thanks, Nei. Chan. Chihiro turned to face the clock after watching him vanish up the stairs. She sighed and sank into her seat, saying, 4:20. She pulled out a tiny cup and a kettle and filled it up for herself. Her eyes met the cerulean blue ones of Konoha's former cage as she drained the water. Where she had left him, he remained standing. Chihiro gave away a little eep. Astonishment. The water trickled down her windpipes as she gingerly set her cup down on the desk and covered her mouth to stop herself from coughing. Adorable. Suppressing his laughter, Minato put on an understanding expression. You forgot to tell us where the viewing room is. Oh no. Chihiro's face reddened. Sorry, sir. It's... Her thoughts suddenly stopped. This is the worst possible time for it to occur. Hold on. She exclaimed, opening a drawer to reveal a random book of records. She started leafing through it while gathering her thoughts. Chihiro, please calm down. Be calm. Down. She pointed at nothing in particular and exclaimed, Ah. It's right here. 4th floor, the entire left side. You can't miss it. Minato nodded and said, Thank you. I have one more request. Yes? Chihiro asked with a polished grin. What have I forgotten since then? Her eyes met the fourth's intense gaze. If it isn't too much trouble, I'd like this establishment keep our stay a secret. We want to avoid another incident like the one you just saw earlier. With nothing more to say, Chihiro nodded. In her chest, her heart twitched betrayed. With a smile, Minato said, It will be very much appreciated. Thank you. He then materialized quickly next to the kunai he'd previously given his son. For some reason, Naruto had assumed that the viewing room would be on the top floor and had run all the way up the stairs. Minato said, "Wow, you got up here fast." Naruto gave a shy smile. "Yeah. But that's the problem. The key doesn't fit. I don't think this is the right room, and I'm not sure where we're supposed to be going." Furled his son's hair, Minato did so. "Fourth floor. To the left. You can't miss it." Naruto scowled. Chihiro was back in the lobby, staring at a blank wall. Glad to be of assistance. Then she noticed that Yellow Flash, Fourth Hokage of Konoha, and Namikaze Minato had all vanished out of thin air. She looked at the time, 4:24. And slammed her head against the desk. "It's just not my day today." Jiraiya looked at her watch. "It's 10 minutes to 6. Time to make our way back." Within his arms, the girls writhed. "Jiraiya. Sen. Tell us more about the moment you removed the enormous salamander that could breathe fire." The other female concurred. "Yes. We'd like to know more details. Jiraiya. Sama." The toad sage let out a loud laugh. "I would love to, but it's time for me to go." "Oh, you don't like us anymore?" The girls sulked and pulled their arms away from him. "How can I ever stop liking you?" Jiraiya smiled. "I need to take care of some important ninja matters. Later on, I'll be back. Till then, reserve a spot for me." "We will." The girls laughed. "Return at any moment. We're going to be patient." Jiraiya thanked him and shook his head, walking out of the building. What ability! Tightly holding the girls in his arms, he dug into his pockets to retrieve the little strips of paper they had slipped to him. He quickly skimmed the papers. A section of the Iwa was agitating for the Fourth's murder. They still desired retribution after all these years. The Toad Sage gave a disapproving, but equally bewildered, click of his tongue. With every breath, the elderly Tsuchikage, Onoki, had attempted to discredit such ideas and advocate for neutrality. At first glance, it seemed like he had succeeded, but it wouldn't take long for the younger generation, consumed by resentment, to start surreptitiously sending clandestine assassination attempts into the Hidden Leaf. Chakra in his hand swirled blue, capturing the paper fragments as it rotates and tearing them into minuscule pieces. Jiraiya scowled. "I suppose you can't just kill 1,000 Iwa shinobi and not leave their friends or families wanting to exact revenge." He reached the town hotel entrance of Tanzaku with a flicker of his body. There was a familiar greeting and the sound of bells as the Toad Sage walked through the doors. "Hello, good evening." Greetings from the Tanzaku Hotel. After glancing at him more closely, the girl behind the desk sang upbeat. Her gaze grew wide. "Jiraiya. San. Welcome back." With equal glee, the sage returned and headed toward the desk, saying, "Yo, Chihiro. You're prettier than ever." Chihiro crossed her arms over her chest and squinted. "And you're just as lecherous as ever." Jiraiya smiled. "Have my students checked in yet?" "They have." Chihiro gave his approval. "They went out earlier to get some food, but they got back 30 minutes ago." "Up in the viewing room?" The girl nodded, then realized what the sage had said earlier. "Jiraiya. San, I didn't know you taught the Fourth Hokage." "Of course." Grinning, Jiraiya leapt to his feet. A big toad materialized beneath him, lifting him up close to the ceiling with a puff of smoke. Chihiro winced at the well. Known pattern. "Please, God. How did I get here?" With a hand outstretched, the Toad Sage started to hop sideways on one foot. The toad looked sympathetically into Chihiro's eyes after it had momentarily regained its sense of direction after being called forth. Jiraiya pulled out 2 paper fans and said, "I am the Keeper of Peace." She was Kage's teacher. He twirled, his hair swirling through the air. "A man amidst men," the fabled sage of toads exclaimed, opening his fans and adopting a broad stance. "Jiraiya." The toad vanished in a great cloud of smoke, leaving the lobby floor covered in broad, slimy footprints. Man among men stood, his fans still raised high, a silly grin plastered on his face. "I'm sorry I ever said anything." Chihiro sighed as he spoke. The slime blot started to spread all over the floor. "And you're cleaning that up?" Jiraiya smiled nervously. Gamma should cease spending so much time in the swamps. Without voicing his dissatisfaction, the Toad Sage started walking towards the hotel's storage area. "I'll get the mop." Jiraiya approached the viewing room he had assisted in building a year earlier. The idea made him smile. Evokes past experiences. An irate blonde's voice greeted him as he opened the door. "Arrow. Sennin. How have you been?" With an apologetic smile on his face, Minato turned to face the sage, who then cast a determined glance in the direction of his younger student. With impatience, Naruto tapped his foot. Amused, Jiraiya smiled. "Why are you so mad at me all the time?" "Seriously?" Naruto's gaze expanded. "To start with, you behave in a completely careless manner and abandon us to go find girls on our own. Secondly, you informed him." Here, Naruto gestured to his dad. "Everything about my hot jutsu. You ruined my joke to no end. Thirdly, you have not been training me at all. Fourthly, when the old ladies discovered you were snooping, you abandoned us and went with them. That is completely incorrect. Fits you perfectly." The sage grinned. "It was you who captured their interest." "Fifth." The boy hesitated. "The fifth, You deserve to have people angry with you because you do so many bad things." Arms crossed, Naruto said. "All right. Every now and then, I have important things to do. You don't think I did that, do you?" With a pointed look at Naruto's father, Jiraiya laughed. "You're spoiling him rotten," he said quite bluntly. Quietly, Naruto ducked his head. Shaming his father was not his intention. Minato gave a shrug. "We were talking about pranks." Jiraiya made a loud moaning sound and put a hand to his face. "And here I was finally weaning him from that habit." "Oh." The fourth interrupted to quickly shift the topic. "We got some food too." Jiraiya gave a nod. "So I've heard. It's not ready yet, but it will be done in a few moments." Minato gave a cheery smile. "Naruto's a great cook." Naruto gave the remark a sheepish smile. Having spent the majority of his life alone, he had to learn how to cook. That does smell good." The Toad Sage turned to his younger pupil after taking a long sniff. "How come you never cooked for me before?" With a pout, Naruto muttered something under his breath. "You never made a request. You simply assumed that I was incapable." He cast a downward glance. "Thanks for buying me food though." Jiraiya grinned. "A growing boy's got to eat." Speaking of growing boys. The fourth added a cheery remark. "Naruto. Go watch the meat, please. You don't want it to burn, but cooking will take some time. Ensure that you are present to remove it at the appropriate time." With a nod, Naruto departed. He could not possibly ruin the first dinner he was preparing for his father. Minato stopped grinning. "Jiraiya. Sensei." The sage gave a chin tap. "This is about what you said you wanted to tell me the night before, isn't it?" The fourth gave a nod. "Did you know the first thing Naruto told me when he first realized that I was his father?" Jiraiya indicated to his pupil that they could proceed by shaking his head. As Minato repeated his son's words from memory, his voice became calm. "Everyone thought I was a criminal and detested me. But I couldn't stop grinning because I thought I would turn into the monster everyone said I was." A silent sigh left Jiraiya. He knew where this was headed. The fourth went on, his voice clearly strained. "No matter how hard I tried, people just kept telling me how worthless I am and how I should just die." As he entered the final section, Minato clenched his jaw and directed a critical glance at his mentor. "I wished so bad for someone to protect me. And love me. And stop everyone from treating me like I didn't deserve to live." The air was heavy with silence. With a questioning gaze, Minato met the man who he had once thought of as his father. He went on, realizing he wouldn't get a response for some time. He was crying. Minato suppressed a cry. The pain I heard in his voice. Sad and furious tears streamed from his eyes. His tone grew ominously low. "Killing them all for causing him to suffer that much makes me want to die. It makes me question what I gave up. It makes me question whether Kushina's death was necessary at all. Instead of pursuing the 9 tails, I could have taken her to the doctor." His tone turned accusing and bitter. "You could have informed me of Tsunade's location. I could have returned her in less than 10 minutes, provided she was still in the Fire Nation. It's possible Kushina survived. His father figure and mentor, Chuunin Sensei, remained silent. Minato growled in an unusual way. Konoha doesn't deserve the peace it has. Jiraiya scowled at himself. Minato. You'd prefer not to go there. Don't I? The Cage chuckled. How are you going to put an end to me? I am among the strongest shinobi that is still alive. Minato. The Toad Sage considered what he was going to say and hesitated. Our culture has a deep-rooted fear of Biju and Jinchuriki and the attack by the Nine. Tails greatly heightened that fear. It is not appropriate to hold individuals accountable for the values instilled in them from birth. They just don't know how to think in any other way. The fear won't go away if you kill them. It will only incite animosity and terror. You have to alter people's perceptions in order to establish a society where people actually understand one another. True peace can only be achieved in this manner. The fourth gave a headshake. You still could have taken him in and raised him as your own. Jiraiya glared at his student. No one knows my life like you do. I have to be out in the field conducting reconnaissance and keeping up my network all the time. I didn't want your son to grow up in a world of constant travel and conflict, but rather with other kids his own age in a place he could call home. That's still better than what he went through. The elder shrugged. In hindsight, perhaps, but we couldn't have known that at the time. I don't want to hear any more of your excuses. The fourth spoke in a low voice. He turned and peered through the clear glass walls of the room, out onto the streets. The words from Naruto kept repeating in his head. I'm going to hear what Kakashi has to say before I make my decision. Jiraiya gave a quiet nod. For now, it will have to do. Minato pivoted. I have one more thing I want to talk to you about. What is it? Jiraiya inquired. It's about the crow. Minato answered. The Sannin pretended not to know. I thought I told you to not worry about it. Easier said than done. Minato paused, then carried on. I tagged it with a flying thunder god marker. Under a Fa Section 8 of curiosity, Jiraiya concealed his surprise. Go on. The crow summoned itself and landed on a man's hand that I don't know. On the other hand, the man beside him had a massive chakra signature. It is comparable to a Biju. I am aware of just one individual with this kind of reputation. Expectantly, Minato turned to face his mentor. Jiraiya gave a nod. Kisame Hoshigaki. The Seven Mist Swordsman's strongest fighter. I also know that he defected and joined a criminal organization known as the Akatsuki while I was supposed to be dead. Minato's expression conveyed the seriousness of his remarks. The next time the man summons that crow, I'm activating the seal. Jiraiya's thoughts became confused. Should he be honest with his student? That his contact for espionage in the Akatsuki was Uchiha Itachi? That when he carried out the Uchiha massacre, the man had only done so as instructed by the village? No. I will not divulge my secret. It's his prerogative to choose not to disclose it when they disagree. The Toad Sage quickly gathered his thoughts and chose to grant his pupil permission. I recognize. Take caution. Of course, I don't plan on getting killed. Minato cast a somber glance at his mentor. But if I don't come back, please make sure my son receives proper care this time. I'll do that. Jiraiya gave a nod, then turned away. Oh no. I'm famished. I'm heading over to check on your son's eating habits. He moved to open the kitchen door with a push. Is the food coming along? I am famished. The pot stickers are ready. Naruto gestured toward a dark pot. You can take some if you promise to stop being a pervert. Jiraiya approached the pot and lifted the lid to reveal an enticing stack of perfectly cooked pot stickers. Returning the cover, he faced his younger student. Never. Well then, Arrow. Sennin. Grinning smugly, Naruto got up and started shoving the Toad Sage out of the kitchen. You're just going to have to wait. With all of his weight on his legs, Guy charged forward. He plucked his friend out of the water before he could drown by diving in and putting his hands around his midriff. Asuma followed shortly after. Is he alive? The green beast of Konoha swam to the shore, where he dropped his load onto the grass growing there. He felt Kakashi's pulse quickly. He's alive. I'm taking him to the hospital. Without another word, Guy threw the silver. haired Chuunin onto his back and vanished with an astonishingly fast burst. Kurenai stood exactly where she had been when Guy and them had first arrived. The fear was shaking the Genjutsu mistress, even after years of training as a shinobi. It was an emotion she had only ever experienced once, that night when the enormous nine-tailed fox had torn through their village, its suffocating chakra unfathomably limitless. Her mental state throwing off her equilibrium, she moved toward the other Chuunin still present at the scene. In an instant, Asuma was at her side, supporting her with her elbow. "Are you hurt?" With a shake of her head, Kurenai fell into his arms. "I felt so weak. I was so scared. When I saw Kakashi defeated like that, I just..." Holding her close, Asuma remained silent. In a quiet whisper, Kurenai spoke to his shoulders. "How can they be so strong?" Asuma gave a headshake. Some people simply had more talent from birth. One such person had been Kakashi of the Sharingan, one of the village's most skilled assassins and Konoha's copy. Nin, the always masked shinobi, had been able to outpace his peers even before he'd obtained his Sharingan. It was disheartening to witness a man of that caliber get defeated with such ease. Uchiha Itachi was one of those people who just made everyone else look weak. The Genjutsu mistress muttered, "I'm not sure I can do this anymore." Asuma reassured her, "That's just your fear speaking. You'll get over it." If every shinobi gave up after facing a near-death experience, shinobi wouldn't exist. Kurenai sighed, "That's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm so tired of all the death and all the fighting. Maybe we should settle down." Asuma gave her a back squeeze. "I know how much you love your job. If you quit now, you're going to regret it later. I'd be okay with it if we quit together. We have enough money. We could start a business. Something peaceful." Asuma laughed. "And here just a few minutes ago you were saying how you weren't ready to let go of this career." Kurenai gave him a gentle shove on the shoulder and said, "And here I thought you wanted to get married." Asuma grinned openly. "I still do. Then, a flower shop would be nice. The Yamanaka already run one of those. You can never have too many flower shops." Kurenai chuckled. "But you don't know anything about flowers." With a casual shrug, Asuma said, "I can learn." Kurenai kissed him once on the lips. "We'll discuss this later. Let's go see how Kakashi's doing." The Sarutobi gave a nod. "Let's go." Pause. Guy moved quickly through the hospital lobby. They would have to send him out of the emergency room because he was unable to remain still. It has to do with getting in the way. In contrast to his usual smile, he scowled. "Please, Kakashi, get well. Please, Kakashi, get well. Please, Kakashi, get well." A medic. Nin left the chamber. Guy took her by the shoulders right away. "How is he? Is he okay? Is he going to be fine?" The physician flinched. "I'm not going to tell you if you don't get out of my personal space." With a quick bow of apology, Guy retreated. The medic. Nin gave a nod. "He'll live." With relief, the man in green sighed. "But his mind's extremely unstable. He's suffering the worst mental trauma we've ever seen." Guy scowled at his glasses. "What does that mean?" The physician gave a pleading shake of her head. "It means he might never wake up." "What? Is there nothing you can do?" The physician scowled. "I'm sure the Sannin, Tsunade, would have been able to do something for him. She could treat anything, but she hasn't been seen in the village in almost 20 years. Guy slumped, his arms dangling close to the ground. There was a voice behind him. "So how's he doing?" The green beast pivoted. Kurenai gave a friendly nod. Sarutobi Asuma was following closely. The physician gave a stern nod. "He's in an indefinite coma, and only the Sannin, Tsunade, might be able to treat him." Asuma's lips quirked. Just what the hell did that damned Uchiha do to him? The physician bent her head. "We have absolutely no idea." Asuma sighed, "At least they didn't get what they came for." The medic looked at the Chuunin with curiosity. "And what did they come here for?" Asuma glanced at Kurenai. She gave a nod. "They asked for Uzumaki Naruto. They came to take the 9 tails." Pause. As they performed last-minute physical examinations on Uchiha Sasuke, he impatiently lay in his hospital bed. I have to leave. I have to work out. With a glowing green hand, the medic woman who had been tending to him moved from his navel to his chest and back again. Sasuke scowled. Will you hurry the hell up? The female grinned. If you're going to be rude, then I'm going to make you stay an extra 30 minutes for a full body scan and a cavity check. Sasuke's gaze expanded. You can't do that. The female glistened. I am authorized to call for such a procedure. The Uchiha scowled and said, TCH. But continued. A few more seconds later, the woman relaxed and gave a nod. You're perfectly healthy. Eye-rolling, Sasuke said. The bones we mended are stronger than before, but the ligaments are still pretty tender. Try not to do anything stressful. Rest up. Eat well. I hope I never see you in here again. Sasuke nodded while putting on his shirt, so basically stay healthy and stay out of trouble. Got it. Yup. The medic exclaimed with a happy smile. Sasuke bowed apathetically. Thank you for taking care of me. With a similar bow, the woman left the room and Sasuke followed. The physician exhaled. Their chances of dying increased with the amount of time they spent in the fields. She would never understand why they were eager to get out of there. The hospital was safe, at least. Sasuke noticed a flash of silver and green as he was leaving the hospital. Carrying none other than his Chuunin. Sensei, Hitaki Kakashi, made a guy hurried to the hospital. The Uchiha looked around in shock. Respected Kakashi. Sensei. How? He went along slowly. I have to know what's happening. As they wheeled the masked Chuunin into the emergency department, he stayed back. When a medic did emerge, it was after a fast pace from the man in the ugly green suit. Sasuke flinched. Compared to Naruto, Maida Guy was even louder. The two other Chuunin who entered were identified by Sasuke as Yuhi Kurenai, Konoha's Genjutsu mistress, and Sarutobi Asuma, son of the third Hokage, who led Genin teams 10 and 8 respectively. Their voice echoed through the hallway. Tsunade, the Sannin, is the only one who can possibly treat him. He is in an indefinite coma. What the devil did that accursed Uchiha do to him, exactly? Sasuke's thoughts exploded. Itachi. He was present. For what exact purpose did they come here? They came to take the 9 tails, and they asked for Uzumaki Naruto. Silently, Sasuke fled. He already knew where Naruto was going. 2 days prior, Kakashi had told him. Uzumaki Naruto, the fourth Hokage's son, was traveling to Showa Town with his long lost father and the Sannin Jiraiya in order to retrieve Senju Tsunade, the other Sannin, in order to assume the Hokage position. If he found his orange friend, there was a good chance he would also find his brother. I can win because I've already mastered his signature move, the Chidori, and Itachi defeated Kakashi, but the Chuunin didn't have the full Sharingan like he did. Sasuke grimly smirked. He's not Uchiha. Only an imitation. The Uchiha clenched his teeth and raced through the streets, telling mother and father to hold on tight because their son was going to exact revenge on them. As usual, Jiraiya opened his eyes at 4 in the morning. He sat up fast and extended his arms. He rolled his futon and went into the common area to look out at the street. The glass walls enclosing the viewing room gave rise to its name. The hallway on the 4th floor literally looked out onto the streets. The ceilings and floors were transparent as well. Jiraiya sighed as she looked up. Wide straw mats had been hung from wall to wall in the room above them. There once was a pretty good view from down here. Having assisted in the design and construction of the room himself, he had lived here while working for the hotel. A couple who had rented the room above once commented on how inventive the glass room below was. They had even greeted him with a wave. They made a pretty good couple. As the night wore on, they eventually forgot about the man who lived in the glass room below. That evening, he had made significant strides in his research. To better examine his research material, he had even jumped up onto the ceiling and pressed his face against its glass surface, demonstrating his dedication to the subject. Not long after, he was apprehended. The couple had angrily complained to management about their unpleasant experience of having a face staring at them from the bedroom floor, and they were rewarded with several apologies and a complimentary upgrade. An ultimatum was also given to him. Until Sage promised to give up his dirty habits, Ajino Yuko would not feed him. Without eating, he had worked for 3 days and nights. By day 4, he was laboring less than half as much as he usually could have. His pace had decreased significantly. Chihiro, feeling sorry for him, pleaded with her mother to give him some food. That day, Yuko visited him while he was working on the 10th floor, bringing with her a plate of steaming porridge topped with eggs, a piece of fish, and soft bamboo shoots. He'd approached her, eyes fixed on the food, fighting the impulse to just take them out of her hands, and greeted her as politely as he could. The hotel manager looked at his pallid face and asked him again if he would swear off his bad habits. With a feeble shake of his head, Ajino Yuko gave in and sighed. After pledging not to look at the patrons, he was given the bowl right away. Jiraiya grinned nostalgically. It was well worth the effort. The Sage of Toads stormed into his student's bedroom at 5 in the morning. Rise and shine, sleepyheads. The fourth arose and prodded his son, who steadfastly refused to be awakened. Naruto. It's time to wake up. Rolling off his futon, Naruto curled into a ball. With a shrug, Minato turned to face his mentor. Jiraiya gave a nod. I'll be waiting outside. And quickly departed. The fourth approached his kneeling son and took him by the shoulder, shaking him. Naruto. We must prepare to depart. Withdrawing his mask, Naruto covered his head. Dunwana. With a smile, Minato gave his son a belly kick. With a jolt, Naruto laughed. No. Ahahaha. Stop. Ahaha. I'm up. Minato got up and walked toward the door. Put on some clothes. We're going to wait outdoors. As the door shut, Naruto scowled and muttered to himself. What on earth was that? He was meant to gently and slowly wake me up. With a yawn, he wiped the last of his sleep from his eyes and staggered from the room. Before packing up, the three went through the same morning routine as they had the day before. At 7:12 in the morning, they set out. The receptionist grinned. Jiraiya. San. Greetings for the morning. It's nice to have you back. The wise man gave a nod. Happy morning. Yuko, it's good to see you too. Come back anytime. She gave a cheer. Yup. Jiraiya started to walk away. Naruto just stared as he passed the woman behind the desk. Nay. Chan. How'd you get so old? Minato shut his eyelids. It wasn't just that he asked her. You've got the wrong person. The woman gave a lovely smile. I'm Chihiro's mother. Oh. Naruto took a step back. Despite her attempts to downplay it, he could hear the distaste in her voice. Well. Bye then. He scurried out the door in a hurry. Minato, the last person to depart, bowed. Thank you for the accommodations you've made for us. The female gave a headshake. There is absolutely no issue. It is an honor to host someone of his caliber. You are free to return at any moment. Whoa, I nearly forgot. She extracted a box by reaching under the desk. This is for you. Minato approached and gave the woman permission to place the box in his hands. What is it? It's for the road, courtesy of the establishment. Yuko grinned. My daughter made it herself. When he slid the cover open, multiple rice balls were visible. You're too kind. The female gave a headshake. Not at all. For the sake of old times' sake. That Jiraiya hasn't consumed any of our food in nearly a year. Tell him to return more frequently. Yes, I will. I'm grateful. Minato nodded before hurriedly leaving. Yo. Jiraiya gave a friendly smile. Flirting with the lady? Minato gave an eye roll. Let's just go. Naruto leapt to his feet. Where are we going? The fourth cast his gaze down to his son. Directly north. Northwest through the forest. For at least 2 days, there won't be any towns or villages in our path. Are you prepared? Naruto gave a nod. Definitely. Well then let's go. Ding. The countdown began. Fish is ready. Glancing over to the pan, Yuko placed the fish on a plate. While chatting to herself, she examined the pot next to it. Not quite ready. Not to exceed a certain length. She hurriedly cleaned her hands at the sink, then sat down on the kitchen stool and put her thoughts elsewhere. Her thoughts naturally turned to her daughter. Ajino Yuko's title was simply hotel manager. Her daughter was essentially in charge of everything from finances and resources to labor and inventory management. She was genuinely pleased with her daughter. Yuko let out a sigh. It's time to address her non-existent romantic life. She was startled out of her reverie by a loud noise. The heat and pressure had increased to the point where the soup had boiled over and the cover had come off. Whoops! Yuko jumped off the bar. Soup's done. While her mother prepared the meal, Chihiro distributed the plates and cutlery. Just as she was finishing, a big man lumbered in. Hey father. Ogini Akio sighed. Hi there, Chihiro. Is your mum preparing lunch? Chihiro gave a nod. She should be done right about now. Abruptly, a voice drifted into the space. Honey, come assist in setting the table with the food. Akio rubbed his stomach and muttered something under his breath. How was I aware that she was here? Coming, my love. With that, he turned and left. Would you like some more soup, father? With a contented sigh, Ajino Akio reclined and placed his hand on his stomach. Not at all. I'm full. What about you, mother? The female grinned. That's okay, Chihiro, I can help myself. For a short while, they sat in silence. Mom? Yes, dear? What if I were? Chihiro faltered, piquing her dad's curiosity. The man leaned forward and sat up. Do continue. Yuko gave his guts a backhand. Cease. You're giving her anxiety. His stomach twitched. That's what dads are supposed to do. Chihiro looked down. Never mind. Oh, no, no. Disregard your dad. He's merely playing you. You have not taken a life, have you? Her mother grinned as Chihiro shook her head. Then there's nothing to be afraid of. That's right. Grinning, her father got to his feet. Your parents are us. You are free to share anything with us. They eagerly awaited. What if I told you I were in love? Oh. Her dad took a seat, breathing a sigh of relief. I assumed you would reveal to us that you were Ow. For what purpose was that? Put an end to it. You don't get to talk. Ignoring his complaints, Yuko gave him another pinch. She smiled at her daughter. Well dear, I tell you that it was about time. The girl shot her a curious glance. Yuko let out a sigh. You were aware that your mother had many suitors before she met your father when she was your age, but just look at you. Working all day at the hotel. I was beginning to feel anxious. You really ought to venture out and find a life partner. She held back. So who is the fortunate boy? Is that Hiku? Her daughter shook her head, looking down. Yuko impatiently bit her lip. Well, whoever it is, it better be someone worthy of our amazing daughter. Yes. An individual similar to myself. Her husband, unable to contain his laughter, lost his temper. I'd roll over and die before I let my daughter go out with someone like you. Yuko prodded the man's abdomen. You let your daughter work herself to death while you sit on your fat ass all day. Akio sneered. I do not. Yes, you do. Yuko kept poking her lover's abdomen. You used to be quite handsome too. Her husband gave her a big smile. What are you discussing? I'm very beautiful. Chihiro carried the plates to the kitchen and stacked them silently. And I'm the Hokage. Yuko gave an eye roll. Look at how fat you've gotten. Akio gave him a gut pat. I eat like a man. You sure as hell lounge like one. It's unrealistic to expect your daughter to handle every task around here. How on earth is she going to locate someone who has been trapped here all day? Yes, Chihiro? With Chihiro already gone, she turned to face her daughter. Look. Akio smiled. You scared her off with your nagging. A finger was jabbed into his chest by his wife. Let's not even begin. Going to your room now, put on some clothes. This afternoon is your meeting with the suppliers. I am aware of this. Oh my god. I'm leaving. With a muttered undertone, he turned away. Pushy woman. A lovely voice called out to him from behind. What did you say? He rolled his eyes. I said that you were a pushy woman. You're goddamned right I am. A few hours following the dinner, Chihiro was positioned at her lobby desk. She kept thinking the same things over and over. Minato Namikaze. The charming Konoha Fourth Hokage. An important player in the Third Shinobi War. Died 12.5 years ago, preventing the capital from being destroyed by the Nine. Tales. Chihiro had vivid memories of that evening. For the most part, everyone did. The town had experienced several minor earthquakes, and there seemed to be a kind of pressure in the air. He was married as well. She had a son and couldn't recall her name. Chihiro flippered aimlessly through the records book. I have no chance at all. When she heard the bells ring, she snapped the book closed. She grinned. Hello. Greetings from the Tanzaku Hotel. The two men walked toward Chihiro, and she instantly felt a surge of instinctive fear. One of them had unusually blue skin and was even taller than her father. The other person's eyes radiated a fiery red. Can I help you? The demon with red eyes nodded. Has the Fourth Hokage been here? Chihiro scowled. That was meant to remain under wraps. I apologize, sir. I'm sorry, but I can't assist you. She gazed into those radiant eyes, spellbound. Itachi pressed his brown eyes into hers. She is dishonest. And split her mind open. Where did they go? The girl grinned up at the sky as the lights went out in her eyes. They were heading to Atofika, according to Jiraiya. San. It would take them 2 days to arrive, he said. Kisame smiled. All right, let's go. The two turned and left with a brutish demeanor. Chihiro gave way to darkness and fell to the ground, her mind disintegrating. 4 hours into the journey, Jiraiya decided to stop. Lunchtime was approaching. Their box of onigiri for lunch was rapidly gobbled up. Jiraiya. Sensei. The sage looked away, a mouthful of rice in it. What exactly is your connection with that hotel? Oh. The rice was ingested by Jiraiya. I used to work for them. What? Really? Jumping up, Naruto spit rice skyward. Some of them hit the Sannin in the face. Jiraiya gently wiped his face. Indeed. Actually. What was it like? Naruto smiled mischievously. I bet you perved on that Nei. Chan, who worked behind the desk yesterday. Scowled the toad sage. Mostly, I didn't do anything like that. She is the daughter of the manager. That woman would have ruined me right now. Head tilted, Minato did so. That girl was the manager's daughter? Huh. She goes by Chihiro. Jiraiya nibbled on his onigiri once more. The manager herself is the woman you saw this morning. Yuko is her name. I failed to inform you? Minato gave a headshake. The sage smiled. Fearsome woman, isn't she? Yeah. Naruto gave a fierce nod. Despite not being angry, she sounded extremely angry. I assumed she would make me lunch or something. As he chewed a mouthful of rice, Minato shrugged. I thought she was nice. By dusk, they had stopped moving. They had to establish a perimeter before nightfall, and it became too dark to see because the sun was going to set. Before preparing for sleep, they consumed the remaining onigiri and drank all of the water they had obtained from a nearby stream. I don't want to sleep. Naruto paced gloomily around. I want to make a campfire. That day, they had gone a long way. They had already left the forest more than half the way. Naruto was making significant progress in his control and endurance under his father's direction. Maybe tomorrow we'll even make it to Atofika by dusk. Jiraiya pondered. Since none of them was particularly exhausted, they gathered logs, rocks, and sticks and built a fire. Fascinated, Naruto gazed into the flames. Sitting to his right, his father had a thoughtful expression on his face. After sticking a stick into the fire across from them, Jiraiya yelled, "Let's tell stories." Let me speak first. With alert attention, Naruto sat up, and the fourth looked at the white-haired Sannin. Ever the storyteller, Jiraiya threw herself into a gallivanting tale about a princess from the land of ice. Naruto started crying at the conclusion of the tale. She just died? His voice was sorrowful and full of wonder. Jiraiya gave a nod. She was helpless to do anything. The poison had progressed to a more advanced level. Thankfully, her country was spared. She performed an amazing deed for her people. With a pointed gaze, the toad sage addressed his senior pupil. Without saying anything, Minato looked into the fire. With a sniff, Naruto nodded. Yes. She carried out. Jiraiya nodded satisfactorily and tossed his stick into the flames. Naruto. It's your turn now. Naruto smiled. All right. I experienced this when I was a child. Jiraiya grinned. You're still a kid. No, I'm not. Naruto scowled. Anyway, you know how the villagers used to treat me like trash, right? Minato took a seat. He was entirely focused on his son. Satisfied to have piqued his father's curiosity, Naruto went on. Actually, the majority of the village chose to ignore me. I mean, you really disregarded me as if I didn't exist. After obtaining some ropes and a pulley, I ascended to reach the Hokage monument. I brought 10 buckets of paint and, for once, it was great that no one noticed me. With a backward look, Naruto combed through his memories. I cherished that day. I stayed until the afternoon until they eventually apprehended me. I tried to make the second Hokage look really old by giving him whiskers and making him resemble a monkey, while I painted the first Hokage with strange eyes and a fat nose. He held back. Minato grinned. And what did you do to the fourth Hokage? I was making you look like a girl. Naruto gave a shy smile. Picking up another stick to poke the fire with, Jiraiya smirked silently. But I only got the lipsticks on before they found out what was going on. His dad gave a nod. What'd they do to you? Naruto scowled. It's a shame the old man made me clean everything up. It ought to have been there for a week or longer. The fact that everyone knew I was the boy who painted the Hokage monument, though, was the nicest part of it all. With pride, he pointed at himself. They even wrote an article about it. Our son is very endearing. Minato smiled and looked thoughtfully into the fire. And what do you think about the villagers? Well. Naruto turned to face the fire, rubbing his arm thoughtfully as he followed his father's gaze. Although some of them are genuinely nice, others are afraid of the nine tails and are quite cruel toward them. For example, Iruka. Sensei would always buy me ramen and a yame. Nei and old man Tucci would always be kind to me. They also have excellent ramen. Additionally, old man Sarutobi was quite kind. With a frown, Naruto murmured softly. Why did he have to die? Minato put his hand on his son's shoulder in consolation. Everyone passes away. He gave his life defending the things that he thought were significant. That is significant in some way. He turned to face the Toad Sage. Doesn't it? Silently, Naruto said, I guess. Another log was thrown into the fire by Jiraiya. Hey. It is growing a little gloomy here. Would you mind telling the next story, Minato? Minato gave a nod. Naruto. Could you tell me more about your mother? With focus, Naruto furrowed his brows. She was married to you? Minato chuckled. Indeed. She was, but she wasn't merely my spouse. Naruto took a seat. What was she like? Hold on, let me tell the story. It was getting close to midnight. They'd had a few more rounds of stories before turning in a few hours ago. Jiraiya lay on the ground and gazed up at the starry night sky above the forest trees. In the sweet evening air, his students slept nearby, their breathing soft. Cicadas rustled softly from the underbrush and trees, their cry echoing through the night. The conflict that frequently occurred nearby had no effect whatsoever on the contented and unaffected existence of the forest. These woodland animals had accomplished what their human counterparts were unable to. They had brought about peace. Shinobi spent their nights leaving nothing but death in their wake, unlike cicadas who filled the night air with gentle music. This, in turn, fed the flames of fear, retaliation, and despair in an unending cycle of hatred. All these feelings ignited in one great blaze 12 years ago with the thousands of Konoha residents killed by the nine tails. There used to be only hatred where Jinchuriki were once accepted as normal members of human society, as was the case with Uzumaki Kushina following years of forced labor in the village. It was fear more than hatred of the unfathomable power that had been let loose in the village that evening. It was the hopelessness of knowing they would surely perish as they cowered before an unfathomably horrible creature. After the monster had been defeated, the growing desperation and terror refused to go away and instead gave rise to a new, repulsive desire, the desire for vengeance. That night, countless people perished. Residences were devastated. Friends were gone. Lovers were split apart, and family members were buried young. Anger replaced the despair. It was so much lost. Something had to pay, somebody had to. They would then direct their animosity at the individual who was home to the nine tails. They targeted a child with all of their animosity. Maliciously, they believed that the nine tails suffered alongside the boy if he suffered. Nevertheless, they were aware that the target of their suffering was only a young child. Some people just decided to ignore him. To ease their own conscience, some, blinded by their desire for vengeance, even went so far as to convince themselves that the boy was the nine tails. The recognition that Namikaze Minato had established for his spouse, the Jinchuriki of the nine tails, while serving as Konoha's fourth Hokage, had vanished. It was ugly, but vengeance, despair, fear, and hatred were powerful emotions. Strong enough, in fact, that the people had permitted it to obscure their perception of the suffering and misery they were causing. Naruto was just another human boy, but only a few rational people could recognize him for that. People like Amino Iruka were ultimately able to see past their own suffering and animosity to give the boy what he deserved, even though they had lost both of their parents to the nine tails. Just treatment. People shunned Iruka because of his demeanor, just as they shunned those who had a friendly relationship with the demon fox. The man had almost died because, in the face of pressure, he had not allowed the views of his peers to change his mind about what was right. The idea that Naruto's Iruka sensei had once been among those who had slammed the boy with rocks, abused him, and threatened to kill him seemed nearly unfathomable. Everyone in Konoha who had anything to do with the horrible thing that was Naruto's early years had the capacity to realize the reality. It was possible to persuade each and every one of them to comprehend. Furthermore, Konoha's hero and former fourth Hokage, Minato, had threatened to kill them. Jiraiya let out a sigh. The same resentment and thirst for revenge that the villagers had felt toward the nine tails were now overwhelming Minato. They were all human, and they all had people who loved them and people who loved them back. Each and every one of them is a potential Amino Iruka. The fact that they were human beings just like him was being obscured by the fourth's hatred. Just as much as the fourth loved his child, the civilian father also loved his. They shared nothing in common. The child would suffer the most if he killed the father. The spouse, relatives, and friends of the civilian were also affected. Naruto would suffer if, by some improbable twist of fate, they were able to exact revenge on the man. Heaven forbid the boy seek revenge. What an irony. With a morbid smirk, the Toad Sage held up his hand as though reaching for the stars. Under those same stars, Iwa assassins were moving toward the Fire Nation's borders even now. Their only goal was to eliminate the man who had murdered so many of their fellow countrymen during the Third Shinobi War. Forgiveness and understanding seemed like unattainable goals. Will this cycle ever come to an end? This sucks. Kisame pondered his predicament while perched on a rock. There's no way in hell we're going to be both the Yellow Flash and one of the Sannin. I thought you liked fighting strong opponents. Itachi paused and gave his companion a calm look. Head rolling, the shark man looked up at the sky. During the war, he killed 1,000 Iwa nin. In a single day. By oneself. By themselves. All strong opponents have weaknesses. Itachi made a cool observation. Yes. The Sharingan. Kisame grinned. Use the Sharingan to solve all problems and steal every jutsu. In just 3 seconds, eliminate any opponent? Look them in the eye. Too simple. With half-heartedness, the shark man swung his sword through the air. Where the hell did your crow go anyway? The fourth put a seal on it. Itachi answered. How come he didn't tell me sooner? Kisame grimaced. Whatever? You can't call upon that entity any longer? No. Itachi observed with partially closed eyes. It's most likely the Flying Thunder God, his signature seal. Flying Thunder God, with impatience, the shark man scoffed. How in the world is that even meaningful? Unlike you, I was not born in Konoha. Itachi kept gazing down at his companion. Kisami's gaze stayed up in the sky. I'll tell you this evening later. We must relocate. Sighing, the shark man got to his feet. You enjoy keeping me stupid, don't you? No. The Uchiha's voice was emotionless. I do not. Which suggests you're keeping me uninformed. Kisame scowled. I can't even tell if you're being sarcastic or not. Dad, wake up. Naruto jabbed a finger in his father's abdomen. Minato rolled over away from his son, pretending he was still asleep, ignoring the urge to laugh. This is my opportunity to win him back. With a smile, Naruto put his hands by his father's sides. Refusing to react when his son touched him, Minato grinned. He turned very slowly and very controllably, murmuring in a drowsy voice. You know I'm not ticklish, right? Naruto came to a halt. Really? That is unfair. Yup. The fourth gave a nod. You're going to have to find some other way to wake me up in the morning besides tickling. With a pout, Naruto sat thoughtfully. There's gotta be something. It was successful. Minato smiled. He got to his feet. It's not too late. Jiraiya. Sensei is still asleep, as you can see. Naruto jolted out of his reverie. This is the reason I'm arousing you. We simply must play a practical joke on him. The fourth studied the sleeping form of his mentor. What do you have in mind? Naruto grinned. Okay, so Ero. Sennin is a major pervert. With a decent sexy clone, I'm sure we could knock him out. Minato grinned. Haven't you done that one already? Naruto gave a nod. Works all the time. I'm not exactly sure I'm comfortable with him looking at you that way. Why? All they are shadow clones. Naruto scowled. Even if they're shadow clones. Minato let out a sigh. You do know that everything your shadow clones see and do become part of your memories when they disperse, right? Really? They actually do? He paused to reflect. Indeed, they do. Are you serious? Minato scowled to herself. Listen, I've got a better idea. Naruto gave his father a pout. I still think the mass shadow clone's sexy jutsu would have been a good idea. He's adorable. Minato grinned subtly in response to his son's annoyance. How good's your henge? I'm super good at it. Naruto grinned with pride. Minato gave a nod. I want you to make 8 clones of Iwa. Nin. Naruto obeyed right away. Minato duplicated himself twice. He changed into an Iwa. Nin after that. He inserted a kunai into the head of the other clone. You do something similar. He muttered. With a smile on his face, Naruto used his hand, head, and heart to use a kunai to stab a clone into the tree. I knew this would be enjoyable. Minato started moving toward Jiraiya's still asleep form. Daddy. How are you doing? Loudly, Naruto whispered. Minato put a finger to his lips and shook his head. Naruto gave a nod. Right. The fourth turned to face his mentor, who appeared to be still asleep, and gently placed his palm on his chest. Through his palm flowed the arrays of a seal. A second later, he was on his feet, nodding contentedly at his work before returning to his son. I've got another flying thunder god marker in Konoha, right above my bed. Naruto's gaze expanded. Then that means... Yup. Minato grinned. The Sage of Toads was left lying by himself in the middle of a large forest when he put his hand to his son's shoulder and they disappeared. The sound of loud chattering woke Jiraiya. At last, we succeeded in capturing him. The idiot. They can now at last sleep in peace. The sage faced his gravest fear. With a kunai in his head, Minato was lying hunched up against a tree. Additionally, Naruto. Jiraiya clenched his jaw when the murderer pivoted. Oh. Another one is out there. In what manner did you miss him? I'm not sure. I apologize, boss. The boss smiled. It makes no difference. We'll also gut him. We can kill anyone if we can eliminate the yellow flash. With a cheer, the others hurried over to the furious sage. As soon as one reached Jiraiya, he palmed it in the head. It vanished in a cloud of smoke. A clone? He was followed by 2 more. One used a diving tackle, the other a flying kick. Jiraiya didn't have time to process what had happened before he leapt to his feet, sidestepping the tackle and using his forearm to block the kick. He then punched the Iwa Nin in the face as the man slid forward due to the momentum. He smashed into the back of the dive tackler as he fell back to the earth. Both vanished in a cloud of smoke. How absurd. In the apartment of Minato. Aw man, he beat all my clones. Naruto sulked with disgust. Minato grinned. Sannin is more than just a well-known name. He is among the strongest shinobi in Konoha. Naruto sat for a few moments, thinking. Orochimaru was a Sannin too, right? Minato gave a nod. And that old lady Tsunade that we're looking for is a Sannin too, right? Minato smiled. She also has a very violent temper. She would probably smash you into the ground if you called her an old lady. Wow. Wonder filled Naruto's voice. I think I just got a little bit more respect for that arrow. Sennin. Forest. There is no possible way that you could have slipped past our security and outwitted my pupils. Who the hell are you? The cloned boss smiled maniacally. Sanina from Jiraiya. Your doom is me. He moved forward at a breakneck pace. There are better ones than this one. With a gloomy smile, Jiraiya raised her palm in the air. With a raised forearm, the boss shifted the direction of the sage's blow. Using the same arm he had used to deflect the blow, he struck forward, displacing one of the sage's arms in the process. The boss thundered a lightning fast fist toward the man's guts as the sage reflexively raised his own forearm to block it. Jiraiya dodged the fist by quickly repositioning herself. He prepared a palm, but as his left leg shot forward to re-enter, he felt a blow to the abdomen. Gamma. Kenpo? Blood spurted out of the sage's cough. The goal of that blow was to kill. The Iwa. Nin grinned. Jiraiya. Senni. It's encouraging to see that in taijutsu, I'm still a few steps ahead of you. Minato. With a frown, Jiraiya felt the blood trickle down his chin. This was not humorous. This lacked humor entirely. Iwa. Nin gave a shrug. It was enjoyable. We haven't fought in 15 years or so. Yes, but that. With a rolling of his eyes, the toad sage gestured to the fictitious bodies. With similar smiles, the bodies rose to their feet. Wouldn't be a prank otherwise. Naruto smiled. The two corpses then vanished in a cloud of smoke. Those were clones too? Jiraiya scowled at himself. Where the hell is Naruto? The Iwa. Nin grinned. We're all identical copies. I'm in my apartment's bedroom with Naruto. Goodbye. The copy vanished in a cloud of smoke. I'm in shock that his clone won. Shortly after, the mentor's left side saw the appearance of Yellow Flash, accompanied by his son. Happy morning. Jiraiya. Sensei. Excitedly, Naruto was jumping. Optimal. Never play a prank on someone. You guys. Jiraiya gave a defeated sigh. His mind suddenly clicked. Don't tell me you drew a flying thunder god on me. Minato smiled. Take it off. I'll think about it. The toad sage rolled his eyes. The greatest infringement of privacy is this seal. Now take it off, or I'll take your son behind your back to the red light district. Head tilted, Naruto did so. Hey dad. What's the red lights district? Stay out of the red lights district. Minato lightly touched his mentor's chest and shook his head. A ceiling array retracted into his palm after blazing sky blue. He grinned. If my son becomes like you, I'm going to murder you in your sleep. Jiraiya snorted. If your son becomes a pervert, I'll swear off women for the rest of my life. Naruto smiled. I'd like to see you do that. Naruto. Minato made a sudden turn. Hesitantly. I'm kidding, Dad. I'm kidding. Whereas Naruto's group headed 150 kilometers west and then north, Sasuke headed directly northwest in the direction of Showa Town. It came as no surprise that he arrived at the same time as them, despite starting 2 days later. Hey, young man. This is where we have a spot for you. Would you mind joining us here? The women squealed as he turned to face them. I'm 13. That is unimportant. You're adorable. We'll take you without charging you. The females gave a nod. Sasuke grinned. And I'll report you for child molestation. TCH. The lead female spit. Kid doesn't know what he's missing. However, the Uchiha had already left. Where in the hell is Tsunade, who they are searching for? He pivoted to face a street vendor. Hey, where can I find Senju Tsunade? The man's gaze got bigger. That woman? She's either drinking or gambling if she's here. Check out one of the casinos or bars. The boy bolted off without saying thank you. The salesperson rolled his eyes. Modern youth. To Sasuke's amazement, Tsunade appeared in the first bar he entered. Naruto was there beforehand. Missing them was difficult. Who says I'm not capable of being Hokage? BAA. Chan. I'll make you eat my fists if you call me that one more time, you little shit. Literally. You creepy old hag, if you don't come back to be Hokage, I'll make you eat my fists. The room erupted with the sound of a table being smashed to pieces. The barman scowled but remained silent. Senju Tsunade is not someone to simply screw around with when she's angry. Tell you something. A wager, perhaps? The woman extended her pinky finger, saying, if you can make me use more than this finger, then I'll think about going back with you. Naruto smiled. Too simple. It's agreed upon. However, in the event that you lose, you're going to leave and not return. The fourth Hokage scowled to his side. Naruto. Remember that she's a Sannin? Naruto gave a headshake. I promise not to lose. I never retract what I've said. Tsunade grinned. She liked this kid, Hokage be damned. He made her think of her younger brother. Already, a part of her was rooting for her to lose this wager. Okay, child, come meet me outside. I will demonstrate to you the essence of fighting a Sannin. Naruto pivoted, his eyes expanding with astonishment. Sasuke? How on earth did you end up here? My brother, Uchiha Itachi. The Uchiha scowled. He is pursuing you. I'm staying with you and I'm aware that he is coming. Jiraiya wore a frown to match. Youngster. You won't benefit from this quest for vengeance. Angrily, Sasuke gritted his teeth. He killed my tribe. He murdered both my dad and my mother. I'm going to be the one to take his life because he deserves it. Tsunade disregarded their conversation and hurried to the bar's entrance. Ignore this whiny child. Are you coming, Uzumaki Naruto? He bit his lip, Naruto. Jiraiya nodded, placing a hand on his shoulder. Go. I'll take care of your friend. With that, Naruto left the bar. Minato looked up at his teacher. I'm accompanying him. I have to watch out that she doesn't murder him. Jiraiya gave a nod. Do what you must. And his pupil had vanished. The man who dared to downput Sasuke's vengeance was met with a glare. What you say makes no difference. I'm going to exact revenge on my family by killing my brother. The Sannin grinned. You can't beat him. My Sharingan have fully matured and I know Kakashi's Chidori. Jiraiya gave a headshake. You can't beat him. Sasuke gave a sneer. You're just trying to get me to not fight him. The elder sighed. After you murder him, what will you do? What achievements would you have made? I'll have killed the man who slaughtered my clan and murdered my mother and my father. Yes, I am aware of that, but what good does that do? Your clan is not going to survive, even if you succeed. You won't have accomplished anything significant. Don't we punish murderers for their crimes? In what way is this different? Uchiha gave a stubborn glare. Killing him means everything. After turning around, the Uchiha left the bar. He had no intention of wasting time debating morality with an elderly man. Jiraiya let out a sigh. Itachi had made numerous sacrifices. Nevertheless, I don't believe it was the right decision to incite hatred and retaliation against your brother. He ought to be aware. Naruto was lying outside in a crumpled heap, bruised. After hearing, old lady, and old hag, over and over, the female Sannin's tolerance had finally worn thin. She instantly lost the bet after sending Naruto flying into a wall with her entire fist. Kisame grinned. Look, it's your brother. I know. And they have another Sannin with them too. I know. Itachi gave a deadpan response. Guess we're calling this off then? We are. Uchiha got to his feet. Let's retreat now. The leader must be informed of this. Sharkman scowled. We didn't even get to engage in any meaningful combat. This is awful. What a time waster. The Uchiha remained silent. No. No, it wasn't. A sudden flash of light stopped them as they turned to go. Kisame sensed a touch on his back. He spun and cleaved the air with lightning. Fast reflexes, holding Samahata in his hands. What? When he turned around again, the fourth Hokage, Namikaze Minato, was standing in front of them. Minato grinned. You forget that I'm a censor. Nin, Hoshigaki Kisame, is the fourth one of the censor. Nin? Itachi scowled to himself. It was something that most people were unaware of. The yellow flash, ooh. You definitely deserve the name. Kisame smiled and raised his sword. Let's see if you're as strong as they say.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.